The smell of burning circuits mixed with fresh coffee filled Dr. Emma Torres's small laboratory aboard the research station New Horizon. She wiped grease from her hands and stepped back to admire her latest creation. What started as a broken coffee machine 3 weeks ago had become something entirely different. The sleek metal device now hummed with an energy that seemed almost alive. Emma had always been good with her hands. Growing up on Mars colony, she learned to fix everything from air recyclers to quantum computers. When the coffee machine in her lab broke down, buying a replacement would have taken months. The supply ships only came twice a year, and coffee was considered a luxury item by station command. So she did what any resourceful human would do. She built a better one. The quantum resonance coils came from a damaged navigation unit that was headed for the recycling bin. Emma discovered that these coils could heat water more efficiently than any traditional heating element. The electromagnetic field they produced was perfectly stable and used half the power of the old machine. As an added bonus, the coffee tasted incredible. Emma poured herself a cup and took a sip. The rich, dark liquid was perfect. Not bitter, not weak, just exactly right every time. She had programmed the machine to adjust brewing parameters based on ambient temperature, humidity, and even the molecular composition of the water supply. It was probably the most advanced coffee maker in human space. The laboratory door chimed, and Tom Grant walked in. The chief engineer was a tall man with calloused hands and tired eyes. He spent most of his time keeping the station's systems running with spare parts and determination. "That smells amazing," Tom said, eyeing the coffee machine. "Is that the broken unit from last month?" "Not exactly broken anymore," Emma replied, handing him a cup. "I made some improvements." Tom took a sip and his eyes widened. "This is the best coffee I've ever tasted. What did you do to it?" Emma explained her modifications while Tom examined the machine. He was particularly interested in the quantum resonance coils. As an engineer, he understood their potential better than most people. "You know," Tom said slowly, "we could build more of these. I've got at least 6 broken coffee machines in storage, and there are plenty of damaged navigation units in the scrapyard." "Why would we need more?" Emma asked. "Because in 2 weeks we're hosting the first human delegation to Crossroads Station. Captain Williams specifically requested that our diplomatic quarters have all the comforts of home. Good coffee would definitely qualify." Emma had heard about the diplomatic mission. Crossroads Station was a massive trading hub where dozens of alien species conducted business. It was neutral territory, managed by a council of different alien governments. Humans had finally been invited to establish a permanent presence there. It was a huge step forward for humanity's place in the galaxy. The idea of her coffee machines representing human ingenuity at such an important location filled Emma with pride. "How many machines do you think we'll need?" "At least 12, Tom said. "The diplomatic quarters have 6 units, plus we should have backups. And honestly, I'd like one for the engineering department too." Over the next 10 days, Emma and Tom worked together to build a dozen coffee machines. Each one was identical to the original, with the same quantum resonance coils and advanced brewing algorithms. They tested each machine thoroughly, making sure the electromagnetic output was stable and the coffee quality was consistent. Meanwhile, preparations for the diplomatic mission continued throughout the station. Captain Reed Williams arrived with a team of diplomats and cultural experts. He was the experienced officer who had handled first contact situations before, but never on this scale. Crossroads Station housed over 40 different alien species, each with their own customs and protocols. "Dr. Torres," Captain Williams said when he visited Emma's lab, "I understand you've created some special coffee machines for our diplomatic mission." "They're very efficient," Emma explained. "They use quantum resonance coils to heat the water, which reduces power consumption by 50%. The brewing process is fully automated and produces consistent results every time." Williams nodded appreciatively. "Efficiency is important. We want to show the aliens that humans are practical and resourceful. These machines sound perfect." Emma felt a flutter of nervousness. She had designed the machines for human use aboard a research station. She hadn't considered how they might be perceived by alien species. "Do you think the aliens will be interested in coffee?" "Maybe," Williams said. "But more importantly, they'll be interested in what the machines represent. Human innovation, our ability to take something broken and make it better. That's the kind of impression we want to make." The day before departure, Emma ran final tests on all 12 machines. The electromagnetic readings were identical across all units. The quantum resonance coils produced a stable field pattern that efficiently heated water to the optimal brewing temperature. Everything was working perfectly. Tom helped her pack the machines for transport. Each one was carefully secured and shock-resistant, containers with backup power supplies and maintenance tools. Emma included detailed operating instructions and troubleshooting guides. "You should be proud," Tom said as they sealed the last container. "These machines could change how humans are perceived in the galaxy. No other species has anything quite like this combination of efficiency and quality." Emma smiled, but she couldn't shake a feeling of uncertainty. Space was vast and full of unknowns. The machines worked perfectly in human environments, but what about alien ones? Different atmospheric compositions, varying electromagnetic fields, unknown interference sources. There were so many variables she hadn't considered. Captain Williams' voice echoed through the station's communication system. "All personnel assigned to the Crossroads diplomatic mission, report to Shuttle Bay 3 for final departure preparations." Emma watched from the observation deck as the diplomatic shuttle departed. The small vessel disappeared among the stars, carrying her coffee machines toward their first encounter with alien civilization. She wondered what the other species would think of humanity's gift to the galaxy. In the depths of space, far from human territory, sensors aboard an Altani Empire warship detected the shuttle's departure. Ambassador Kryn reviewed the intelligence reports with growing suspicion. The humans were expanding their influence again, bringing their primitive technology to Crossroads Station. The Altani had dominated this region of space for 3 centuries. They would not allow upstart humans to disrupt the established order. Kryn made a note in his personal log. The humans would need careful watching. The artificial morning cycle was just beginning aboard Crossroads Station when Trade Director Nolan activated the first coffee machine in the human diplomatic quarters. The quantum resonance coils hummed to life, creating their familiar electromagnetic pulse as hot water began flowing through the brewing chamber. The rich aroma of coffee filled the air, bringing a small piece of Earth to the vast trading hub that floated between the stars. 3 levels below, in the Altani Empire's diplomatic section, Ambassador Kryn was reviewing trade agreements when the pulse hit him. The cybernetic implants along his spine sparked with sudden feedback, sending waves of pain through his nervous system. His enhanced vision flickered, and the neural interface that connected him to the Altani communication network went completely silent for several seconds. Kryn gripped his desk, waiting for the pain to subside. As a senior diplomat, he carried more implants than most Altani. Neural enhancers for rapid data processing, communication links for instant contact with the homeworld, and tactical analysis systems that could evaluate threats in milliseconds. All of them had just malfunctioned simultaneously. The pain faded, but the confusion remained. What could cause such widespread interference? Kryn activated his emergency communication protocols and contacted the station's security office. "This is Ambassador Kryn. I've just experienced significant interference with my cybernetic systems. Are there any scheduled maintenance operations or new equipment installations in this sector?" The reply came from a bored-sounding Kalani security officer. "No scheduled maintenance, Ambassador. However, the human delegation activated their first coffee preparation device approximately 30 seconds ago. Could that be related?" Kryn's enhanced tactical systems immediately flagged this as suspicious. A beverage preparation device that could interfere with advanced cybernetics? Either the humans were more technologically sophisticated than anyone realized, or this was deliberate sabotage disguised as mundane activity. In the Vorthan Collective's bioorganic habitat, the situation was even more dire. The Vorthans communicated through bioelectric fields generated by specialized organs in their cranial cavities. When the coffee machine's electromagnetic pulse swept through their section, it disrupted the delicate frequency patterns that allowed them to share thoughts and emotions. Drone leader Axis felt the collective consciousness fracture around him. Individual Vorthons suddenly found themselves alone in their own minds for the first time in their lives. The experience was terrifying and disorienting. Some began to panic, their bioelectric fields fluctuating wildly as they tried to reconnect with the hive mind. "Emergency protocols activated," Axis announced through his personal communication device, one of the few pieces of technology the Vorthons used regularly. "All drones report status. We have experienced massive interference with our primary communication network." The responses came slowly, each Vorthon struggling to use individual speech instead of shared thought. "This drone is alone," one reported hesitantly. "The collective voice is silent. Are we dying?" Axis felt the same fear, but his leadership training helped him maintain focus. "Negative. This is temporary interference. Maintain position and await reconnection." But privately, he wondered what could cause such devastating disruption to their bioelectric systems. Back in the human quarters, Captain Williams was enjoying his second cup of coffee when his communication console chimed with an urgent message from station security. Director Nolan, a civilian administrator with limited space experience, was already showing signs of stress as complaints poured in from multiple alien delegations. "Captain," the message read, "we need you in the main conference room immediately. Several alien species are reporting equipment malfunctions that coincided with activation of your coffee preparation devices." Williams frowned. Coffee machines causing equipment malfunctions? That seemed unlikely, but in his experience, it was better to investigate even the most improbable complaints. He finished his coffee and headed for the conference room. The scene, he found there was tense. Ambassador Kryn sat stiffly at the conference table, his cybernetic implants still showing signs of recent interference. Drone leader Axis seemed confused and kept looking around as if searching for something. Trade Director Nolan looked overwhelmed by the situation. "Captain Williams," Kryn began without preamble, "your people have activated some form of neural warfare device. The electromagnetic interference patterns are consistent with advanced military countermeasures designed to disrupt cybernetic systems." Williams blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry. What device?" "We haven't activated any military equipment. The only new systems we've brought online are some coffee machines in our diplomatic quarters." "Coffee machines," Kryn repeated slowly. "You expect me to believe that a simple beverage preparation device caused massive interference with both Altani cybernetics and Vorthon bioelectric communication networks? I expect you to believe the truth," Williams replied calmly. "Dr. Emma Torres designed these machines using quantum resonance coils for efficient heating. They're completely harmless to humans." Axis finally spoke up, his voice uncertain without the collective's support. "This interference, it disrupted our entire hive mind network. Individual Vorthons experienced complete isolation from the collective consciousness. Such trauma could cause permanent psychological damage." Williams felt the situation spiraling beyond his control. "I understand your concerns, but I assure you there was no malicious intent. If our coffee machines are somehow causing problems, we can investigate modifications or alternative solutions." "Modifications are insufficient," Kryn stated firmly. "The devices must be immediately deactivated and removed from the station." "This is not a request." Director Nolan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "Now wait just a minute. Those coffee machines are essential for human crew morale and performance. We can't just remove them because of some alleged interference that we don't even understand." The tension in the room increased noticeably. Kryn's tactical implants were analyzing Nolan's body language and vocal patterns, looking for signs of deception. Axis was struggling to maintain his composure without the collective's emotional support. "Are you refusing to cooperate with a reasonable security request?" Kryn asked, his voice carrying the subtle threat that Altani diplomats were famous for. "I'm refusing to cave in to unreasonable demands based on unsubstantiated claims," Nolan replied, his bureaucratic training taking over. If you want us to modify our equipment, provide technical specifications for the alleged interference patterns. If you want us to remove essential crew equipment, provide proper justification through the station's formal complaint process. Williams recognized the signs of a diplomatic crisis developing. Both sides were taking positions they couldn't easily retreat from. The Altani and Vorthons clearly believed they were under some form of attack, while the human delegation couldn't understand how simple coffee machines could cause such problems. Perhaps we could arrange for a technical review, Williams suggested diplomatically. Our engineering staff could work with station personnel to analyze the electromagnetic patterns and determine if modifications are possible. Unacceptable, Kryn replied. The devices represent a clear threat to station security and must be removed immediately. The Altani Empire will not tolerate the deployment of neural warfare weapons disguised as civilian equipment. Axis nodded. Agreement, though his movements were still uncertain. The Vorthon Collective supports the Altani position. These devices cause severe psychological trauma to our species. They cannot remain operational. Williams looked at Director Nolan, who was clearly preparing to dig in his heels. The civilian administrator saw this as a matter of human sovereignty and wasn't willing to back down. Williams realized that what had started as a simple complaint about coffee machines was rapidly becoming the first major diplomatic crisis between humans and the alien alliance. In the depths of space, more alien ships were already changing course toward Crossroads Station. Word of the suspected human neural weapon was spreading through diplomatic channels, and species with cybernetic or bioelectric technologies were demanding immediate action. The war nobody wanted was about to begin over something nobody could have predicted: the perfect cup of coffee. The emergency session of the Crossroads Station Council convened in the largest conference chamber, a vast circular room with atmospheric controls adjusted for 12 different species. Ambassador Kryn sat with perfect military posture, his cybernetic implants now functioning normally, but his expression cold with contained anger. Across from him, drone leader Axis still seemed disoriented, occasionally reaching out as if trying to touch invisible connections to his collective. Captain. Williams had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but the mood in the chamber was hostile. Trade Director Nolan sat beside him, clutching a data pad full of regulations and procedures that seemed increasingly irrelevant as the situation escalated. The evidence is clear, Kryn announced to the assembled delegates. Humanity has introduced weapons technology disguised as civilian equipment. The electromagnetic signatures produced by their so-called coffee machines are identical to neural disruptor patterns used in warfare. Williams stood slowly. Ambassador Kryn, with respect, you're wrong about our intentions. These machines were designed by a scientist to make better coffee, nothing more. If they're causing problems, we're willing to work on solutions. Solutions, Kryn repeated, his enhanced vocal systems adding harmonic undertones that conveyed disdain. The only acceptable solution is complete removal of these devices from all human vessels and installations. The declaration sent murmurs through the chamber. Several alien species exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with such an extreme demand. But others nodded agreement, particularly those with cybernetic or bioelectric technologies that could be affected. Axis finally managed to speak coherently. The Vorthon Collective has never experienced such trauma. Our shared consciousness is fundamental to our existence. To deliberately target this sacred connection is an act of war. Now hold on, Director Nolan interjected, his face reddening. Nobody is targeting anything. These are coffee machines. They make coffee. That's what they do. That's all they do. And that's all they were ever intended to do. From the Kalani Federation section, a crystalline voice chimed in. Ambassador Quartz, whose silicon-based physiology was unaffected by the electromagnetic pulses, offered a different perspective. The Kalani have monitored these frequencies. They appear to enhance our computational matrices rather than disrupt them. We find the human's explanation credible. This unexpected support from the Kalani created the first crack in the United Alien Front. Several species began whispering among themselves, reconsidering their positions. Kryn's tactical systems immediately identified this as a threat to Altani leadership. The Kalani's silicon-based neurology is irrelevant to this discussion. The Fact remains that these devices cause severe dysfunction in both cybernetic and bioelectric systems. Whether intentional or not, they represent a clear danger. In the human quarters several levels away, engineer Tom Grant was frantically working on the coffee machines with a team of technicians. Dr. Emma Torres had transmitted detailed technical specifications from the New Horizon research station, but without her expertise, Tom was struggling to understand the quantum resonance effects. The frequency output is completely stable, Tom muttered, studying his readings. There's no variation, no power spikes, nothing that should cause interference. He paused, considering the data. Unless... Tom accessed the station's database and began searching for information about Altani cybernetics and Vorthan bioelectric fields. What he found made his stomach sink. The quantum resonance coils produced electromagnetic waves at exactly 7.3 terahertz, a frequency that resonated perfectly with both Altani neural implants and Vorthan communication organs. It was an incredible coincidence. But Tom realized that coincidences could start wars just as easily as conspiracies. Back in the council chamber, the debate was becoming heated. More alien delegates were arriving as word spread throughout the station. The Rigel Consortium, a trade alliance of 6 different species, demanded immediate action to protect their cybernetically enhanced negotiators. The Tau Collective, distant cousins of the Vorthans, called for economic sanctions against all human colonies. Williams felt the situation slipping away from diplomatic control. Admiral Hayes had specifically warned him that humans couldn't afford to appear weak during their first major diplomatic initiative. But Williams also understood that backing down might be the only way to prevent a larger conflict. We need time to study this problem, Williams said firmly. Give us 72 hours to analyze the electromagnetic signatures and develop modifications that won't interfere with your technologies. Unacceptable, Kryn replied immediately. Every moment, these devices remain active. They pose a threat to station security. They must be deactivated now. Director Nolan stood up abruptly. Absolutely not. We're not shutting down essential life support equipment because of your paranoid theories about human aggression. Life support? Axis asked, confusion clear in his voice. Coffee preparation is considered life support? For humans, yes, Nolan replied seriously. Coffee consumption is essential for optimal human cognitive and physical performance. Removing coffee from human crew operations would be like removing atmospheric filters from your biohabitat. This explanation caused another stir in the chamber. Several species were familiar with the concept of biochemical dependencies, but few had considered that humans might require specific nutrients for proper brain function. Ambassador Quartz chimed in again. The Kalani archives contain references to human caffeine requirements. This substance appears to be crucial for their neural chemistry, similar to silicon substrate requirements for our people. Williams seized on this opportunity. Exactly. We're not talking about luxury items here. Coffee is a basic human need. These machines represent our attempt to meet that need efficiently in a space environment. But Kryn was unmoved. Biological requirements do not justify the deployment of neural warfare technology. Find alternative methods to meet your caffeine needs that do not threaten other species. The deadlock was complete. Humans couldn't function without coffee, aliens couldn't tolerate the electromagnetic interference, and neither side was willing to compromise. Williams realized that what had started as a simple diplomatic incident was becoming something much more serious. Tom Grant's voice crackled over Williams' personal communicator. Captain, I think I found something important. The quantum resonance frequency is identical to something called the predecessor control signal. I'm sending you the data now. Williams glanced at his datapad and felt his blood run cold. The predecessors were an ancient civilization that had dominated this region of space millions of years ago. According to alien historical records, they had used electromagnetic control signals to dominate other species before mysteriously disappearing. If the coffee machines were accidentally reproducing predecessor technology, it would explain the extreme alien reaction. It wouldn't matter that humans had no knowledge of this history. The electromagnetic signature alone would trigger species-level trauma responses based on genetic memory. Williams looked around the chamber at the assembled alien delegates, suddenly understanding their fear. They weren't reacting to coffee machines. They were reacting to the return of their ancient oppressors. The situation had just become much more complicated than anyone could have imagined. Admiral Hayes received the priority transmission while reviewing fleet positions in his command center aboard the battleship Defiant. The message from Captain Williams was marked with the highest security codes, and its contents made Hayes lean back in his chair with growing concern. Coffee machines accidentally reproducing ancient alien control technology, diplomatic crisis escalating toward military confrontation, alien fleets moving toward human space. Hayes had spent 30 years in the space service, but this was beyond anything in his experience. He activated the fleet-wide communication system and summoned his senior staff to an emergency briefing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes began as his officers assembled in the briefing room, "we have a situation unlike anything we've faced before. Our diplomatic mission to Crossroads Station has encountered complications." He displayed the technical data Tom Grant had transmitted from the station, the electromagnetic signatures, the predecessor frequency analysis, and the alien species reaction patterns filled multiple screens around the room. Commander Lisa Park, the fleet's chief tactical officer, studied the data with professional interest. "Sir, are you saying that our coffee machines are accidentally using ancient alien mind control technology?" "That appears to be the case," Hayes replied grimly. "The quantum resonance coils produce the exact frequency the predecessors used to dominate other species millions of years ago. The aliens aren't overreacting to interference. They're having instinctive fear responses to what they perceive as the return of their ancient oppressors." The implications were staggering. Humanity's first major diplomatic initiative had accidentally triggered species-level trauma responses across multiple alien civilizations. The coffee machines had become symbols of humanity's potential to replicate the most feared technology in galactic history. Intelligence Officer David Clark provided an updated tactical assessment. "Sir, we're tracking 17 alien vessels, changing course toward human space. The Altani Empire has mobilized 3 battle groups, and the Vorthan Collective is moving their bioship fleet to intercept positions. They're treating this as preparation for invasion." Hayes felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Earth Command had given him clear orders about humanity's first contact protocols. Show strength, maintain dignity, never appear weak, in front of potential enemies. But those orders assumed rational diplomatic disputes, not accidental recreation of ancient nightmare weapons. On Crossroads Station, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Ambassador Kryn had received authorization from the Altani High Command to use any means necessary to eliminate the predecessor threat. Drone Leader Axis was struggling to maintain individual consciousness, while the Vorthan Collective demanded immediate military action through bioelectric communications that bypassed his damaged personal network. Captain Williams found himself caught between increasingly impossible positions. Director Nolan was demanding protection of human sovereign rights, while alien delegates were calling for immediate boarding actions to seize the coffee machines by force. "Captain," Tom Grant reported over the communication system, "I've been working on frequency modifications for the quantum resonance coils. I think I can adjust the electromagnetic output to avoid the predecessor patterns while maintaining coffee brewing efficiency." Williams felt a surge of hope. How long would the modifications take? For all 12 machines? Maybe 18 hours, if I work straight through. But there's another problem. The aliens want us to shut down the machines immediately. Even brief activation for testing the modifications might trigger hostile action. The dilemma was clear. Humans needed the modifications to prove their good faith, but the aliens couldn't tolerate even temporary activation of the machines. Meanwhile, both sides were running out of time before military forces arrived and turned the diplomatic crisis into open warfare. In the Kalani Federation quarters, Ambassador Quartz was conducting his own analysis of the situation. The silicon-based Kalani had different reactions to the predecessor frequencies, experiencing enhanced computational abilities rather than trauma responses. This unique perspective gave Quartz insights that both humans and other aliens lacked. Quartz accessed the station's historical databases and began correlating predecessor artifacts with current electromagnetic signatures. What he discovered was both fascinating and disturbing. The coffee machines weren't just reproducing random predecessor technology. They were recreating the exact frequency pattern used in the final predecessor experiments before their civilization's mysterious disappearance. According to fragmented records, the predecessors had been working on advanced consciousness manipulation when something went catastrophically wrong. Their entire civilization had vanished overnight, leaving behind only automated systems and terrifying genetic memories in the species they had once controlled. Quartz realized that the alien reaction wasn't just about ancient oppression. It was about extinction-level terror based on species memories of the predecessors' final days. The aliens weren't just afraid of being controlled again. They were afraid that humanity had unknowingly activated whatever destroyed the predecessors themselves. This information changed everything. Quartz immediately requested an emergency meeting with Captain Williams and the senior alien delegates. Meanwhile, aboard the merchant vessel Lucky Strike in Human Trade Corridor 7, Captain Davis was having his own encounter with Altani military forces. His ship was carrying a small coffee machine identical to the ones causing problems at Crossroads Station, and the Altani patrol vessel Conquest had ordered him to shut it down immediately. "This is Captain Davis of the Lucky Strike. I'm not shutting down essential life support equipment based on your demands. My crew needs coffee to function safely in space." The Altani commander's response was swift and harsh. "You will comply immediately or face boarding action. We will not allow predecessor weapons to operate in this sector." Davis was a veteran merchant captain who had dealt with difficult alien customs officials before, but he'd never been accused of carrying ancient weapons of mass destruction. The situation escalated quickly when his crew, deprived of their morning coffee, began showing signs of reduced alertness and coordination. "Look," Davis transmitted to the Altani ship, "my people can barely function without coffee. If you want us to shut down the machine, you'll have to explain why my ship's safety systems are suddenly considered weapons." The explanation came in the form of a boarding torpedo. The Altani didn't have time for lengthy negotiations with potentially hostile humans carrying predecessor technology. They needed to secure the device before it could activate whatever had destroyed the ancient civilization. The boarding action that followed was chaotic and violent. Davis's crew, operating on minimal caffeine and maximum confusion, resisted what they saw as an illegal seizure of their property. The Altani boarding party, experiencing neural feedback from the coffee machine's electromagnetic field, interpreted human resistance as confirmation of hostile intent. By the time the incident was over, 3 humans were injured and 2 Altani soldiers were in medical stasis. The Lucky Strike's coffee machine had been destroyed, but not before its final electromagnetic pulse had triggered traumatic flashbacks in the entire Altani boarding party. Word of the Lucky Strike incident spread through communication networks faster than the participants could file their reports. What had been a diplomatic crisis was now an active military confrontation with casualties on both sides. Admiral Hayes received the news while en route to Crossroads Station with the human fleet. The timeline for peaceful resolution had just collapsed. Alien military forces were no longer waiting for diplomatic solutions. They were treating coffee machines as active threats requiring immediate military response. Hayes activated the fleet's emergency protocols and prepared for what might become humanity's first interstellar war. The irony wasn't lost on him that Earth's children might fight their first battle among the stars over the right to drink coffee. In his final message to Earth Command before entering the conflict zone, Hayes wrote, "Diplomatic options exhausted. Multiple alien species treating coffee brewing equipment as weapons of mass destruction. Recommend immediate technical analysis of all quantum resonance devices in human space. Will attempt to prevent war, but situation may be beyond peaceful resolution." The response came back within hours. "Maintain human dignity at all costs. Do not surrender essential equipment to alien demands. Earth stands behind you." The die was cast. Humanity's first interstellar conflict would be fought over coffee, ancient alien nightmares, and the right to be human in a universe that didn't understand what that meant. Dr. Emma Torres had never imagined that her coffee machine modifications would bring two fleets to the edge of battle. But as she worked frantically in her laboratory aboard New Horizon, she could see the massive energy signatures of approaching warships on her long-range sensors. The human fleet under Admiral Hayes was racing toward Crossroads Station, while Altani and Vorthon vessels had formed a blockade around the neutral trading hub. Emma's fingers flew across her workstation as she analyzed the quantum resonance patterns that had started this crisis. Tom Grant's data from Crossroads Station combined with her original design specifications to reveal something extraordinary. The coffee machines weren't just accidentally reproducing predecessor technology. They were recreating the exact frequency that had caused the ancient civilization's extinction. The breakthrough came when Emma cross-referenced the electromagnetic signatures with archaeological data from predecessor ruins. The quantum resonance coils were generating a standing wave pattern that matched energy readings from the final predecessor laboratory discovered on the dead world of Keth Prime. Whatever experiment the predecessors had been conducting when their civilization vanished, Emma's coffee machines were unknowingly continuing it. This discovery changed everything. The aliens weren't just afraid of being controlled again. They were terrified that humanity might accidentally trigger the same catastrophic event that had wiped out the most advanced civilization in galactic history. Emma opened a priority channel to Crossroads Station. "Tom, I need you to listen very carefully. The coffee machines aren't just using predecessor control frequencies. They're recreating the exact experimental parameters that preceded the predecessor extinction event." Tom's voice crackled back over the communication link. "Are you saying our coffee machines could cause some kind of galactic disaster?" "I don't know," Emma admitted. "But I've figured out how to modify the quantum resonance coils to avoid both the control frequencies and the extinction pattern. The problem is that any test activation might trigger an alien military response." Meanwhile, in the main conference chamber of Crossroads Station, Ambassador Quartz was presenting his research to the assembled delegates. The Kalani's unique perspective on the predecessor frequencies had revealed information that neither humans nor other aliens possessed. The electromagnetic patterns produced by human coffee brewing devices match archaeological evidence from 17 different predecessor research facilities, Quartz announced, his crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. These facilities were all destroyed simultaneously at the moment of the predecessor extinction. The implication is that humanity has unknowingly recreated whatever experiment eliminated the predecessors from existence. The revelation struck the chamber like a physical blow. Ambassador Crin's cybernetic implants processed the tactical implications in milliseconds. Drone leader Axis felt the Vorthan collective's shared terror through his damaged neural link. Even species that had been neutral in the conflict suddenly understood the scope of the potential threat. Captain Williams stood slowly, feeling the weight of galactic history settling on his shoulders. "Ambassador Quartz, are you suggesting that our coffee machines could somehow cause another extinction event?" "The possibility cannot be eliminated," Quartz replied. "However, the Kalani propose a different interpretation. Perhaps the predecessors were attempting to create something beneficial when their experiments went wrong. The humans may have succeeded where the predecessors failed." This unexpected perspective created a moment of silence in the chamber. The idea that humanity might have accomplished something beyond predecessor capabilities was both terrifying and fascinating to the assembled alien delegates. Admiral Hayes arrived at Crossroads Station with perfect timing. His fleet took position just outside the station's defensive perimeter, close enough to respond to threats but far enough to avoid triggering a shooting war. The alien fleets maintained their own positions, creating a tense standoff that could explode into violence at any moment. Hayes requested immediate transport to the station for emergency negotiations. As his shuttle docked, he carried with him Emma's complete technical analysis and a proposal that might prevent the first interstellar war in human history. The emergency council session that followed included military commanders from all major fleets. Hayes presented Emma's findings with careful precision, explaining how the coffee machines had accidentally recreated both predecessor control frequencies and extinction-level experimental parameters. Dr. Torres has developed modifications that will eliminate both frequency patterns, Hayes announced. The quantum resonance coils can be adjusted to maintain coffee brewing efficiency while producing electromagnetic signatures that are completely safe for all known species. Ambassador Crin's response was immediate and harsh. Unacceptable. Any activation of these devices, even for testing modifications, poses an unacceptable risk. The devices must be destroyed, and humanity must surrender all quantum resonance technology for investigation. The demand sent shockwaves through the human delegation. Surrendering advanced technology would set a precedent that could undermine humanity's position in the galaxy for generations. But Hayes also understood that refusing might trigger the very war he was trying to prevent. Drone leader Axis spoke for the Vorthan Collective. The trauma to our people has been severe. Trust in human intentions has been damaged. How can we believe that modifications will be sufficient when the original design was so dangerous? It was Ambassador Quartz who proposed the solution that would eventually end the crisis. The Kalani Federation offers to serve as neutral mediators in this conflict. Our silicon-based physiology allows us to monitor the quantum resonance modifications without experiencing harmful effects. We propose a joint technical commission to oversee the modification process. The proposal created the opening that cooler heads had been seeking. Hayes quickly endorsed the Kalani mediation, while other alien delegates began considering the possibilities of supervised cooperation rather than destructive conflict. Over the next 18 hours, a remarkable transformation took place aboard Crossroads Station. Dr. Emma Torres arrived from New Horizon with a team of human engineers, while the Altani and Vorthans sent their best technical specialists. Working under Kalani supervision, the mixed team began modifying the coffee machines to eliminate the dangerous frequency patterns. The work was delicate and precise. Emma's original quantum resonance coils had to be recalibrated to produce heating effects without generating the specific electromagnetic signatures that triggered alien trauma responses. Tom Grant worked alongside Altani cybernetic specialists, learning how their neural implants functioned and how to avoid interference patterns. The breakthrough came when the team discovered that slight modifications to the coil alignment could shift the electromagnetic output by exactly the amount needed to avoid both predecessor control frequencies and extinction patterns. The coffee would taste slightly different, but it would still provide the caffeine and stimulants that humans required for optimal performance. The first test activation was conducted with representatives from all major species, monitoring the results. Emma held her breath as she activated the modified coffee machine, watching the electromagnetic readings on multiple alien sensor systems. The quantum resonance coils hummed to life, producing their familiar heating effect without any of the dangerous frequency patterns. Altani cybernetic systems remained stable. Vorthan bioelectric networks showed no interference. Even species that had been neutral in the conflict confirmed that their technologies were unaffected. The coffee that emerged from the test was perfect, rich, dark, and satisfying, with all the chemical properties humans needed but none of the electromagnetic signatures that had terrified the galaxy. Captain Williams took the first sip while alien delegates watched nervously. His smile of satisfaction marked the turning point in humanity's first interstellar diplomatic crisis. The Treaty of Crossroads that emerged from the negotiations established unprecedented cooperation between human and alien technologies. Humans agreed to share quantum resonance technology for beneficial applications, while alien species provided advanced shielding techniques to prevent future interference accidents. More importantly, the treaty created the first interspecies technical commission for monitoring potentially dangerous technologies. The coffee machine crisis had shown how easily misunderstandings could escalate when species with different physiologies and historical traumas encountered unfamiliar technologies. Admiral Hayes was able to return to Earth Command with news of successful diplomatic resolution rather than reports of humanity's first interstellar war. The alien fleets dispersed peacefully, carrying with them new respect for human ingenuity and adaptability. But perhaps the most significant outcome was the establishment of the first interspecies cafe aboard Crossroads Station. Dr. Emma Torres worked with alien nutritionists to develop beverages safe for multiple physiologies. Humans could still have their coffee, while other species could enjoy drinks tailored to their specific biological requirements. The grand opening of the cafe was attended by delegations from 12 different species. Ambassador Kryn, his cybernetic systems functioning perfectly, admitted that while he still found human customs bizarre, he could understand why they had been willing to fight for the right to maintain them. Drone leader Axis, reconnected with the Vorthan collective but now more comfortable with individual thought, tried a specially formulated bioelectric stimulant that enhanced the hive mind connection rather than disrupting it. The experience was so positive that the Vorthans requested the technical specifications for their own vessels. Even more alien species began arriving at Crossroads Station, drawn by reports of the amazing human beverage technology that had nearly started a war but instead created unprecedented cooperation. The station's trade volume increased dramatically as species sought to acquire modified quantum resonance devices for their own applications. Emma Torres found herself appointed as the first director of interspecies beverage development, a position that never could have existed before the coffee machine crisis. Her laboratory became a center for collaborative research between human and alien scientists, working on projects that benefited all species. Tom Grant was promoted to Chief Engineer of Interspecies Technology Integration, overseeing the installation of modified quantum resonance systems throughout the station. His expertise in adapting human technology for alien requirements made him one of the most sought-after engineers in the galaxy. The crisis that had threatened to destroy humanity's place among the stars instead established humans as innovative problem solvers willing to adapt their technology for the benefit of all species. Coffee machines became symbols of cooperation rather than conflict, representing humanity's ability to turn mistakes into opportunities. Years later, when historians studied the first major diplomatic crisis between humans and alien species, they marveled at how close the galaxy had come to war over something as simple as brewing coffee. But they also recognized that the resolution of the crisis had established principles of cooperation and mutual respect that would guide interspecies relations for generations to come. The coffee machine that had nearly sparked an interstellar conflict instead became the foundation for the most successful period of galactic cooperation in recorded history. And in the interspecies cafe aboard Crossroads Station, beings from dozens of different worlds gathered each day to share drinks, stories, and the remarkable discovery that understanding between species was possible, one cup at a time.